Welcome to Threads of Gold. I'm Dana Susan Cruz. Today's guest is a childhood cancer survivor and advocate. She has spent many years working in nonprofit organizations, not only to raise funds to cure childhood cancer, but also to develop programs for survivors of childhood cancer, especially long-term survivors like herself. Her recently published book is called Hope Over Despair, and it is an incredible journey about her life as a longtime survivor of neuroblastoma. Thank you for joining us, and please welcome Mariah Forster Olson. All right, yay, Mariah. Okay, welcome to Threads of Gold. I'm so happy you joined me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to go ahead and show it again. This is the book
Okay.
we're here to talk about, and it has been a big journey just to write this book, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Does it feel good to have it?
It does. It feels good to hold it and to know that it's out there. And I'm really happy with the finished product.
Yes, me too. Both of us have read it multiple times at this point, at this point, as we've worked through a few years now of preparing this book. And just for everybody who's either watching this or listening in on a podcast, I want to say this book is true to its title, Hope Over Despair. So, yes, it talks about an incredibly painful life, your life, not something from your past, something from your past, your present, and likely your future, is that you have debilitating pain and it's daily and it's constant, and it's all a result of having neuroblastoma as a baby. And so when you were writing this book, you were just exposing the realities of pediatric cancer, and it's a very important book. It is about despair, but more importantly, it's about choosing hope over despair, and you are the epitome of hope over despair. So thank you for sharing your story with the world.
Thank you.
So I love how in this book, it's not broken into chapters, it's broken into sections. And the really cool thing is that there are three sections. And for me, it's almost like there's a sandwich here. You start with the cancer story, you end with the lessons you've learned and what you do as a result of all of those lessons. And then the meat is in the middle. And that middle section is wow, very important. And well, the whole book is important, but that middle section I think is going to be an eye opener for people who maybe don't know the realities of being a longtime survivor of childhood cancer. But if you don't mind, let's kind of just chat a little bit about the beginning part of the book, which is the cancer story. And you were too little to even remember the beginning. So, but you can still tell us a little bit about your cancer story.
Yeah, so I was likely born with my tumor, but it wasn't discovered until a few weeks after my first birthday when I was having trouble breathing. I was misdiagnosed several times, which is kind of typical of childhood cancer. But eventually, it was discovered that I had neuroblastoma, a tumor in my chest. It grew out of my spine, wrapped around part of my heart, and was pushing against my lungs, which is why I was having difficulty breathing. I was a year old when I was diagnosed, and I had treatments. I had radiation treatments, two surgeries, and then 2 years of an experimental chemotherapy protocol. And so I remember some chemotherapy, but most of the treatments, and this part of the book, I had to go back and talk to my parents about it and make sure that what I was remembering that I had heard and what they remembered were correct in the book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your parents actually do remember all of this, right? I mean,
Yes.
I can't imagine what it's like to be a parent and have a little 1-year-old baby diagnosed, but especially back in 1980, and what maybe a lot of people don't know, even those current cancer parents, is that it was a lot different in 1980 than it is today. Like, we didn't have support groups like we do today. We didn't have, camps and like big cure fest and things like that. We've really progressed a lot in that capacity, but And even today we have the internet. And you even mentioned in,
Mhm.
your parents did not have at their fingertips, literally like we do, the internet to turn to, which I guess in some ways is good because there's a lot of not true, but
Yes.
they were limited in what was out there. So what was do you I mean you talked to them in writing the book. What was it like for both of them to just the shock of it all and how did they figure out what to do?
They were really lost. I mean, now you look on it and we're like an experienced, medical family, but back then, they were in their mid 20s, and they were super young. I was their first child, and they didn't really know what to do. At first, it's difficult, learning how to navigate asking doctors questions and all that. So I had a lot of questions, but eventually they had to kind of get over that and learn how to speak with the doctors and get the proper information so that they knew what was going on with me. And there were things that were left out from what they were told. For example, being more susceptible to chickenpox, for example. I almost got it, and I was doing chemo, and I probably would have died if I got it. They kind of chastised my parents for it, but my parents were never informed of that. And there was, again, no internet that they could look up and see that this was a common thing that you have to be careful of when your immune system is down from chemotherapy.
Right. It's so weird the doctors didn't say anything to them.
Yeah. And another thing too that back in the 80s, we used to carry our chemotherapy prescriptions in a paper bag to from Mayo Clinic, which is where I was treated, to our local treatment medical facility, which is where I did get some of my treatments as well. Today, that's totally unheard of and a
No.
big no-no.
No. Can you
Yeah.
imagine a paper bag full of poison?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, and I don't even know if they told my parents to wear gloves or anything while handling that paper bag. But yeah,
Imagine and now like they wear hazmat suits to
yes,
to get the chemotherapy ready. So like your mom and dad are just like it's like their lunch bag walking around with this.
I know.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable to think. And but this is what progress too looks like,
yeah.
and certainly we have a long way to go. Kids still get cancer and kids are still dying of cancer, and it is not okay with us. That's why you and I do so much in advocacy. But I do think it's important sometimes to just take a step to, stop where you are, take a little peek back in time and say, okay, we
Mhm.
have had some progress. And specifically with neuroblastoma, I mean, I don't even know if you know this. How many people your age are there who had neuroblastoma as a child?
There's not many. I know there's a few that are older than me from the Facebook group that I help administrate, but there's not many. The protocol wasn't developed, and the survivorship of neuroblastoma patients was a lot lower back then. So I know that at like Mayo Clinic, I was one of the longest living childhood cancer patients that they had. And when I went back in 2017 to see a doctor there, he was so excited about meeting a neuroblastoma patient that was that old. So, and when I would go back to Mayo, when there used to be people there that remembered me, it was like I was a rock star kind of. They gave me a lot of attention. Now, the last person has just retired, so I don't think anybody would remember me if I went back there now. But yeah, I celebrated 45 years in June since my cancer diagnosis. So um, that's a pretty long time to
Yes.
live.
You actually, not just with neuroblastoma, but with really any childhood
Any
cancer.
cancer.
Yeah, you don't meet
Yeah,
too many 45-year-old. My brother is one.
yeah.
One of you rare folks who is a long, long time survivor. And I do want to circle back to that and talk about some of what you do for long time survivors of childhood cancer because you do a lot. I want to talk a little bit about the toolkit with CAP2 and all of that later on because that all of that is super important. But I think it's important to dive a little bit into the meat of your book, like I called it, um, because one of the things that you reiterate in the book is that you heard the either you or your parents, whichever, heard the word NED, which we love, no evidence of disease. At some point, you heard that you were cured of your cancer, which is a big deal. That's something to celebrate. But, and this is where I think this book needs to be out there for the world to see why we're so adamant about funding research to develop better therapies that are less toxic, that kill cancer, but don't harm the child. So, I don't want you to share all of this, but just if you don't mind sharing just some of the major life altering permanent side effects, late effects, and things that you've had to endure throughout your life because of the treatments you did to cure your neuroblastoma.
Sure. Yeah, so I have both psychosocial and physical late effects from the treatments. I start with the psychosocial late effects, and those were or are depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder. So we talk a little bit about that in the book and going through childhood, a teenager, high school, college, and adult with those psychosocial disorders. And then we dive into the physical late effects, which are plentiful and numerous. And not all of them are even addressed in this book, but one of the main ones that we kind of touched upon is chronic pain due to because of where the tumor was located and the radiation needed to be aimed at the spine. I had severe scoliosis and I wore a back brace for many years, but unfortunately, I still required multiple fusion surgeries. And now I'm completely fused from the neck all the way down to the sacrum, which is you're basically the kind of triangle shaped bone that you sit on. And I have chronic bone, muscle, and nerve pain in my upper and lower back, as well as through my cancer scar and neck. And so that means that I have pain every second of every day. And it's usually pretty high on the pain scale that I have it. So that's a big one. I also have adrenal insufficiency disorder, which basically just means that my adrenal gland does not produce cortisol, and cortisol is a steroid or a hormone that helps you live life. It's the fight or flight response. It regulates your blood pressure and some different things. And I take synthetic steroids to help treat that. But there is a lot of fatigue with it, and you have to kind of manage that steroids. If you have more activity one day, you have to take more. If you don't get them, you could go into a coma and die. So it's very important that you manage it. um,
Yes.
Kidney disease is another big one that brings about a lot of other secondary effects. Migraines. So those are just some of the ones I'll touch upon at this point. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of different late effects that I've had and that I continue to have, and that I probably will continue to have in the future. And new ones may pop up. They're called late effects because they can happen from months to years to decades after your treatments.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is a story you and I have heard many, many times from many other
Yes.
patients over the years. I mean, it's again one of the reasons why we're so adamant about increased funding. We have to do something better for these kids. I know you didn't just now mention it, but you mentioned it in the book about um, cardiac
Yeah.
issues, and I mean, it's something like the chemotherapy that kids have to undergo ages the heart and other internal organs too, I think, by like 20 years. Is that correct?
I don't know the exact stat, but yes, the chemotherapy does affect the heart in a negative way. I luckily have always had normal EKGs and echoes. I continue to have to be monitored because they could change at any minute. And I also am kind of a double whammy because I had chemotherapy that can affect the heart, as well as radiation to parts of the field of the heart. Like the coronary artery was in the field of radiation for me.
Right.
So yeah, so I've got a double whammy of both radiation and chemotherapy that could affect the heart.
You've now you have not had any recurrence of your disease, correct?
No, no. And that is amazing because neuroblastoma has a high rate of relapse
Hmm.
generally. So yeah.
Yeah,
And we shouldn't expect to get a recurrence of neuroblastoma because I don't have any of the known familial genes, which is usually when you get neuroblastoma as an adult.
got it. But you are at risk of developing any number of other cancer types because of
Nine, yeah, nine different secondary cancers because of the radiation, the chemotherapy treatments. So I do have to be monitored and screened regularly for these different secondary cancers. Or a couple of the secondary cancers I've kind of mitigated, like the breast cancer. Because I had such a high risk of it, I had a preventive mastectomy. I could never get radiation to the chest again because I had already had it. So that's one that I'm not as high risk for. And then also my thyroid, I had to have that removed because there were nodules all over it. And there's just little tiny pieces of it left with the parathyroid. So I don't have to worry about that quite as much either. So,
now you just mentioned, that you're 45 cancer versary, right? That
yes.
happened, but when you think about at your age, you're only in your 40s, and how many surgeries have you had in your life? Like
I've had 52 surgeries.
52 and counting. Like
Yes.
you could do like a TLC show about
Yeah.
no, they don't need to explain that. Yeah, I'm just curious, because you touched on the psychosocial stuff too. And of course, every childhood cancer survivor I know, and you too, talks about that. That's a huge deal. And
Yeah.
some of that, there's PTSD, there's depression, anxiety, there's incredible fear. Um, when you were going back and writing this story, because you've been writing now for a while, you've spent a few years working on this memoir, you were having to write this, then go back and read it, and then do some revisions, and just writing and reading it over and over and over again for years. How did you manage that to keep yourself from kind of going crazy and reliving it all?
So some of the parts were really difficult to work on, especially like the um, infertility stuff, not being able to have a child. That was probably one of the most difficult parts of the book for me to write, because that is still so raw. But I have a really good, I call them my inner circle.
Mhm.
And it consists of several different people, but my husband and I talk a lot. My parents and I are very close. And so just talking to them about things as I would go through them, and because they're also the most familiar with the story and everything that I go through. So that was really helpful to have them to talk to as I would work on this. And then, you have to break up the time and do things and spend time with the people that you love and do things that you love. So I just tried to do my best to write, what I was feeling, and then to just kind of work through it with my people, and then try to do something fun that would help me get out of a funk if
Yeah.
I was in it.
Yeah, we had more than one conversation, you and I, about, you would say, asking about the timetable and all of that. And as you know, at Ballesteri, we don't believe in deadlines.
Yeah.
And simply because we are talking about something that is so difficult, and when you're reliving a traumatic event over and over again, you sometimes will dream about it, or it just starts to affect you. And so I believe that you did the right thing in taking a bit of time. And speaking of your inner circle, I love that you call them that. I've used you as an example in talking to people. Um, I want to ask about several of them, but I want to ask about your parents first, because
Yeah.
they lived this story with you as a baby and throughout your life, and they've read the book. What did they think when they read the book?
Um, I know they cried um quite a bit when they read it, because they also relived it,
Mhm.
and they, had a different perspective than I did. They were the ones that, were aware of everything going on at the time that I was diagnosed. Um, but they were they were really proud of me for everything, and just I think that it just helps solidify our relationship too. I don't think we would be as close without having had childhood cancer. So if we want to look at the positive side of things or the silver lining, that definitely is one, because I would not give up the relationship I have with my parents for anything.
Yeah, special.
So yeah, definitely. And yeah, they just really proud of me. So that's always good. And they know that I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I mean, even before I, focused on it for these past few years, I've wanted to write a book, and I've written little sections of it at a time, but didn't focus on it till the last few years. And so it was good to have a finished product to show them.
I'm sure they love it. Yeah, I can only imagine what it's like for them. Yeah, they did have to relive it. Everybody who reads it is living it through your words. I lived it. I feel like I know everybody in the story. I haven't met any of them except for you. But I do also want to ask you a little bit about your brother Gabe, and
Yeah,
he's younger than you,
she
but
is.
I have a special place in my heart for siblings, of course. And has he had the opportunity yet to read it? I mean, it's newly released, so I don't know.
Yes. I don't think he's had the opportunity to read it yet. Um, I I don't know if he's even ordered it or if my mom ordered a copy for him, but he'll definitely get a signed copy. But I did talk to him about, what I wrote about him in the book. And he is 5 years younger than I am. And my parents wanted to wait till I was past most of my treatments. And hopefully, little did we know that it wasn't past all the medical issues, but just past all the treatments and past all of the intense stuff before they had him.
Yeah.
And growing up, I was his babysitter, but now he's like a protective older brother to me too. So,
Yeah.
but no, he's wonderful. And I have a soft place in my heart for siblings too. My dad actually did his psychology thesis on siblings of sick children.
Oh, yes.
So yeah,
That's good. One of the things that I love. You and I are about to go back to Cure Fest next month in DC, and one of the things I love is how at Cure Fest they put such a strong emphasis on the brothers and sisters. It is so hard
yeah,
for them. Just, even like your brother, he might not have been around when you were sick, but he grew up with a sister who struggled these major life-altering medical conditions as a result. So, he's been around it his whole life, and
yeah.
probably why he's so protective. But then this leads me to Troy. I love your husband's name. Just like, I'm going to throw this out and embarrass myself. I don't care. When I was in college, I had a huge crush on Troy Aikman, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
I thought you were gonna say that.
I love that name. Um, anyway, Troy, he was definitely not around during all of this, but he's the love of your life. So, do you want to chat just a little bit about Troy? And I'm sure it's going to take him a while to read the book too. I'm asking who's read it when it's newly released. So,
Yes.
hardly anyone yet, but what does Troy think of all of it?
He's really happy for me and proud of me too because it's been a dream of mine for a long time to have the book out. But I met Troy, it's 24 years ago and we've been married for 21 years. But I met him right after I had a back surgery. He made Valentine's Day dinner for a friend and we hit it off um, and there was a party that weekend and it was like we were the only two people in the room. So he takes such good care of me. He's very protective and very caregiving. He uh the before he proposed, my parents talked to him about like you always have to have health insurance, and these are some things about Mariah that you should know, and he pretty much already knew them. We did, go into marriage thinking we could maybe still have children, but I think that we also knew that it was a possibility we couldn't, and he's accepted it better than I have, which says a lot about him because he would be a wonderful father. And um, I talk a little bit about that in the book. I won't give it away, but you'll fall in love with Troy too, I think, when you read the
Oh,
section on him.
yeah, he's stayed true to those vows of loving you in sickness and in health for sure.
He sure did. Yep.
Yeah. And the parts you talked about, and I definitely think that we need to leave this for the readers to go and read about, but it's also just a significant truth that you are among many, many survivors who suffer infertility. And
Hmm.
it's one of those truly unfair pieces of this story because you always wanted to be a mom. And
Yeah.
it's just another thing that cancer steals from people. It's a great thief. I hate cancer with a passion. I view it as a monster. I view it as a thief, and it stole that opportunity. But and I'm not saying this flippantly because you know how I feel about my dog Bella. Have found a little bit of your momness in your love for your pets, which they're
Yes.
also part of your inner circle. And I think that's really cool. And real fast I'm just going to throw this out. Dun, 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 everybody go by. This is behind me too. Um, this is a storybook, Stories Around the Campfire, which you can find at bellasterry.com, and all of the proceeds benefit childhood cancer research at Gold Together. But you contributed a little story in that also. So you didn't just write a memoir, you also wrote a children's story for our storybook, and it's all about your best friend, Isaac. You want to tell us about Isaac?
Yes. I will. Yes, Isaac is my 19-year-old. Well, he'll be 19 in August, and oh, it is August, so it's shortly. My Siamese cat. I got him from a shelter that I used to work at, and he is wonderful. He's pretty much always with me. We were just gone for an overnight visit to a Milwaukee Brewers game, and he's acting like I've left for weeks at a time. But he is always with me. He was a great editor with the book. He laid next to me the whole time I was editing. But he also every night he'll lay on top of me, so I have to take some required rest. But yeah, he's been with me since he was about 4 years old. So I've had him for about 15 years, and he is just wonderful. I can't say enough good things about him. And the Stories Around the Campfire book is a children's story about Mariah who gets sick and has to navigate kind of her time away from Isaac, her best friend, and it's illustrated by my friend Diana Teasley. And I just love the illustrations. I actually just framed them, so they'll be put up in my house.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So,
They're super
yeah,
cute. And I like that story too. You know, how many times I talk to little kids with cancer and they hate when they have to leave their pets behind and go to the hospital.
yes,
It's just because pets bring us so much comfort.
yeah, and love and
You.
inner peace and joy and relaxation. And yeah,
That's a terrible. I don't think, again, something else, I don't think people truly comprehend how hard it is on kids to have to leave their pets behind. Their siblings and their parents can come to the hospital and visit them, but not their pets, and
yeah,
it's really tough. I want to talk a little bit about the last section of your book, which
yes.
where you get into some really great life lessons that you've learned as a result of your pain. And this is where I would like to say this book is not just for the childhood cancer community. This book is for anyone who's human, who has lived on this planet long enough to know the truth that we all suffer. We all go through terrible life experiences, and we have a choice. We can wallow in our pain, or we can rise and choose hope and optimism and be positive like you are. If you can do it, any of us can do it. But in that final section, in addition to kind of talking about some of these perspectives of yours, you also touch on a lot of the nonprofit work that you do. You're very actively involved. When I first met you face to face for the first time, we were actually in Washington, D.C. You were going to the White House briefing. So you're super involved in a lot of different nonprofits. And if you want to chat a little bit about that, I think that would be really cool. And also, if you don't mind touching on the survivorship toolkit with CAC2.
Yeah, yeah. So I got started with nonprofits with the Neuroblastoma Children's Cancer Society. And I will mention that a portion of the proceeds of my book does go to this nonprofit. And basically, they're the neuroblastoma nonprofits that I work with. And all money that they raise, almost 100% of the money that they raise goes towards neuroblastoma research. So that is a nonprofit that's near and dear to my heart. The family is the Sexton family, and they lost their son, Michael, to neuroblastoma and started this nonprofit because there was no place where they could donate money just for neuroblastoma research. So I have worked with them for several years now, and they're like a second family to me. In fact, they just sent me a package in the mail congratulating me about the book. So
That's
yeah,
sweet. Yeah.
yeah. I also work with for advocacy work. I work with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and then I also, like you mentioned, work with you on Gold Together. We're on the advisory council, and I am one of the advocacy co-leads. And I work with they're mainly high school age students, and we kind of teach them how to advocate and tell their story, and raise funds for research and programs. The Coalition Against Childhood Cancer, or CAC2 as we abbreviate it, I am the survivorship lead for them. And I just rolled off the board. I was term limited, but I was on the board for a while too. But as the survivorship lead, I have two major projects, or they're not programs, but we have Better Together, which is a directory of nonprofit organizations that offer assistance programs and services to childhood cancer survivors, their families, and the professionals that work with them. And then we have the CAC2 Survivorship Toolkit, which are educational resources and materials that span 6 different categories. And there's over 500 resources that just span everything that a survivor can go through. The different categories are in educational guidance and planning, insurance and financial health, physical health and late effects, psychosocial and emotional health, transitioning to adulthood and wellness and healthy behaviors. And so that is just a bunch of information for childhood cancer survivors and their families, as well as the professionals, again, that help them.
Yeah, it's really,
So
really well done. I love it. It's
thank
actually
you.
anyone who's watching this or listening in, if you go to bellasterry.com, go to our resources tab, and you will find Coalition Against Childhood Cancer there and exactly what she's talking about at their website. It's really, really important information and very helpful. I mean, how long did it take you to do that?
So I had a co-lead on that project at the time when we were developing it, and then there was a team of people that helped at CAC too. But it was like 2 years to get out the first edition. Um, from when we started. I mean, we had planning meetings before that with just the co-lead and I. But then once we started working with the working group members, it was about 2 years to get it out there. And now we're working on adding more resources to address things that we weren't able to address the first time around. And that should be out. And we're going to complete that hopefully in December of 2025. So there'll be even more.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a labor of love for sure. I mean,
It is
I
definitely.
was in awe when I first saw it. So in addition to all of this other stuff, each year you travel to Cure Fest for childhood cancer in Washington, D.C. And
Yes.
mentioned that's the first time that I actually met you face to face. We had
Yep.
talked before that multiple times, but also, hey, I'm wearing
I
the
see that.
yeah. So for anyone who's watching on the screen, I'm holding up my necklace. Mariah gave this to me when we first met. It's a little cross, and inside of the cross is a little mustard seed. And you can understand that if you read her book, because she touches on her faith, and her faith was a big part of this story. Yeah. So I thought, oh my gosh, I have to wear my necklace. I'm going to be talking
Yeah.
to you. So, but let's talk about CureFest because
Yeah.
we're a month away from that. Just over a month away from that right now. It's hard to believe. Like you said, yes, we are in August. And
Yes, I know.
crazy, but we're going to be back in Washington, D.C., which is an incredible event that we attend each year. And now, in the past, I know you're not doing this year, but you typically will be a part of the White House briefing and a bunch of other events that lead up. We attend the summit with the Congressional Childhood Cancer Caucus, headed up by Congressman Michael McCall, the Golden Toast, a
Foremost.
lot of events that occur in the few days leading up to CureFest. But do you want to talk about like the White House briefing and the things you've done in the past at CureFest?
Sure. Yeah, the White House briefings have been wonderful. I was able to go to two of them. And one of them was basically I went there and it was listening and being told about some of the stuff that was happening. And then one of the next year we went there and we actually talked about things and gave ideas and different things and were broken down into groups. And it just is a real pleasure and blessing to be able to attend something like that because there's not a lot of people that get to go to the White House briefings. I don't know if there's going to be one this year. So we'll have to kind of stay tuned for that. But I've also been to the Golden Toast, which is it's kind of a kickoff to the events of CureFest, and you go there and it's wonderful because you can meet up with people that you haven't seen in a bit. And the big thing is to take pictures because you can see the White House and the Washington Monument in the distance. But the Congressman McCall will come and give some remarks, as well as sometimes some other Congress people will come too. The last time we were there, they took a picture of um, survivors and patients, and they kind of basically said all the children. And so we were like, okay, we don't know if we're supposed to go up there, but they let us come up there and take pictures. So we were part of that that group this
Wait,
time
that's
around.
a big deal that to see
Yeah,
survivors. That's a testament to something good it has happened.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, kind of back to the fact that all of this started for you in 1980.
mhm,
There, that's hard to believe. I was introduced to childhood cancer in 1977, so just a little bit before that when my little brother got sick. And if people understood just the vast difference just in the atmosphere of it, we were still kind of coming out of that era of don't go near that kid, they have cancer, like
yes.
and I think some of that still exists, unfortunately. It's not contagious, y'all. But
No.
yeah,
And the other thing too is that everyone thought I had leukemia because that's the only childhood cancer that they heard of.
yeah.
And so it's important for people to remember too that childhood cancer consists of about 16 different types and hundreds of subtypes. So it's not just one disease.
Yes, I say this to people all the time. When I meet people and they find out what I do, it's inevitable that somebody's going to say, well, why haven't they found a cure for cancer yet? And I'm just like, I understand the question, but there's a lot of holes in that question. Cancer is not a disease. It's hundreds of different diseases, and
Yeah,
children get lots of different types of cancers. And yes, leukemia is the most common, so people know about it. But man, they need to know about the rest of them too. Some of the not
sure.
so common ones. But yeah, so I'm glad you were in that photo, though. It's important for little children currently going through cancer treatments to see someone like you too and say, I'm going to be like her. I'm going to beat this disease. I hope and I pray for them. But I want to thank you for your willingness to share your life story. It really is a powerful book. I think it's a very important one, for people in the cancer community to read, for people who are curious why we're so passionate about this to read so they can understand why we want better therapies. But like I said moments ago, I think it's an important book for anybody of any age and life circumstance to read because we all have something that troubles us. And we can look at you as an example and an inspiration of a life that's very difficult and challenging, but the choice to get up in the morning anyway and to move forward. And somehow you do it with a beautiful smile on your face, even when you're in pain. And my husband's pushing you around in your wheelchair in DC.
Yes.
You're gonna get to do that again this year. That's so exciting.
Yes.
And
That's wonderful.
Mariah will be in Freedom Plaza with the Bellisteri group on Saturday night during Cure Fest. Come by and meet Mariah, get a photo with her. And in the meantime, go buy the book. You can find out how to buy it at her website, hopeoverdespair.com. And you can learn a little bit more about what she does at her website. And then you can also go to ballisteri.com if you want to and find out how to buy it there. If you buy it on either Amazon or Barnes and Noble, we're asking everybody, please go give us some nice reviews. Okay? We need lots of good reviews for all of our books, please. So, is there anything I missed in all of this?
I don't think so. I guess if you missed anything, they should just
Buy the
get the
book.
book.
Buy the book and come see us in DC
Yeah.
during Cure Fest. And I want to just thank you again for being a part of today's show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you again to Mariah Forster Olson for joining me today on Threads of Gold. You can buy her book, Hope Over Despair, at her website, hopeoverdespair.com, or you can visit bellisteri.com to find out more there. I appreciate your support of everything we do at Bellisteri. Have a great day.